stories and images that made news during the year. So much of news is about change, but some important things and people endure. And no one was more enduring than our own Mrs. Thatcher. In January, after almost 9 years in office, she became this century's longest-serving Prime Minister. Red noses abounded in February, and nothing to do with the weather. Comic Relief raised almost £7 million for famine victims. March was dominated by death amid huge controversy. In Gibraltar, 3 IRA terrorists were shot dead by British security forces. At the funeral in Belfast a week later, 3 people were killed in a gun and grenade attack. 5 days after that, 2 British Army corporals who stumbled on another funeral were dragged from their car and murdered. In April, John Demjanjuk, a modern Ivan the Terrible, was sentenced to death for the murder of thousands of Jews during the war. Uproar followed. May, and the first of the West's important presidential elections. France's President Mitterrand was returned to power, keeping socialism alive at the Élysée Palace. On June the 11th, the world's rock stars gathered at Wembley to sing a collective happy birthday to Nelson Mandela, 70 years old and still under lock and key. The IRA's summer of violence, begun with attacks on British servicemen in Europe, continued. 6 soldiers died when their van was blown up at Lisbon. July saw the first of the year's major disasters. The oil rig Piper Alpha exploded, killing 167 men. It was the North Sea's worst accident. There was further tragedy in the Gulf. The US warship Vincennes destroyed a civilian Iranian aircraft by mistake. Nearly 300 passengers were killed. In August, the IRA smuggled a bomb into the Mill Hill barracks in North London. 1 soldier was killed. Later that month, 8 more died when their bus was blown up near Ballygawley in County Tyrone. And Pakistan's General Zia died when his plane blew up in midair. Natural disaster followed in the Sudan. Torrential flooding left thousands homeless, adding to that country's already massive problems. For the Americans, there were happier occasions. The Space Shuttle Discovery was successfully launched in September, putting the US space program back on course. But to the south, Hurricane Gilbert blew its worst, wrecking large parts of the Caribbean and threatening Texas. For the Canadians, disgrace at the Olympics. National hero Ben Johnson was stripped of his gold medal and sent home after failing a drugs test. October, and the new spirit of East-West cooperation sprang into action. 2 grey whales trapped in the Arctic ice were freed after an extraordinary international rescue operation. November, and Mrs. Thatcher showed solidarity with Lech Wałęsa as the Lenin shipyard was closed by the Polish government. And the other leader of the Western world was chosen. George Bush beat Michael Dukakis to the US presidency as the people opted for continuity and no new taxes. December saw a political casualty in Britain. Edwina Currie, having voiced her forthright opinions once too often, departed with egg on her face. But the year's end has been dominated by further tragedy. At Clapham in South London, 2 rush-hour trains collided, killing 34 people. And over Lockerbie in Dumfriesshire, Britain's worst air disaster. Pan Am Flight 103 crashed with 258 people on board. A bomb had been planted on the aircraft.